Manor Lords has been out a full weekend now, and you've probably clocked in over 100 hours, which would seem like a physical impossibility, but anything is possible in your second life as a Lord of the Manor. Across farming, warfare, influence, and the many mechanics of the game, there are tons of little nuances that can easily get lost in the shuffle. In this video today, I want to help you get better at Manor Lords by breaking into some of my quick and maybe not so quick tips that will get you closer to conquering the entire early access map. Now, this is your first time on my channel. The way I do things is by upfronting the knowledge of my videos so you can decide if it's the right one for you. With that being said, it is difficult to summarize an entire list, but let me just hit you with some of my favorite takeaways from this video. Firstly, use the tab button. It will quickly summarize everything going on in your town at a glance so you can jump to any things that need help. Secondly, upgrade your church as fast as possible to get a free chunk of influence, and also make sure you're tithing 5 to 10% at your manor to allow for strong monthly influence income. This opens the door to you conquering other portions of the map. Lastly, when you build a workshop on your Burgage plots, the only ones whose size matters are the orchard and the veggie gardens. Make the rest as small as you'd like to help conserve room for more plots. There's plenty more to dive in on, but those are some of my favorite tips within this video. You can find the entire list below in the timeline and description, so please just navigate to any chapter that interests you the most. But if that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to just simply shut the video down and get back to conquering early access. Before you head out, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun action if this video actually does help you, as that does have a massive impact on my channel. Lastly, if you've not yet purchased Manor Lords and you'd like to support the channel, you can use the link in my description to my Nexus Store. Nexus gets Steam keys directly from the developer, Greg in this case, and delivers them to you. Like I said, it does greatly support me. Let's get started here on some advanced tips for Manor Lord. Loading into the game, let's go into our first little tip here, and it is about that tab button I brought up in the beginning, because you're probably like, what the hell are you talking about, dude? So I'm going to hold down the tab button, and boom, this is what I see. So you just get so much information from this, and I didn't even know this was a feature until way late in the game. Maybe it was in the tutorial or something, and I blew past it because I played it in the demo, but let's take a look at just our fields. So this shows me how much of our crop has grown out of kind of the yield. Don't look at this number at the end and go, oh, it's going to only yield 12. It's going to go beyond that number, but this gives you an idea of what the growth is like. Also, any kind of building that has people placed into it, this is going to show us, hey, this has got 0 people in it. Oh, I've got 1 person at the baker, and I don't even have any bread anymore. Let's go ahead and remove this person. And I can kind of go through this, and this just kind of helps me at a glance, rather than going, how many people do I have here? Here, here, here. Okay. I can just hold this button down and get all the information I need. And then furthermore, when I look at my Burgage plots, I get a lot of information here as well. Let's take a look over here at this one. This says 2, 1, exclamation point, clothing and ale. So what it's telling me from this is it's a level 2 Burgage slot. It has 1 family in it, and it's missing, or I'm sorry, not missing. It needs to have these 2 amenities satisfied. So we'll click that just to kind of confirm it here. So remember, it's missing a clothing stall, and it's missing a tavern, and it's level 2. So what happens though if you actually run out of those sources? Well, if I go up to this one, I can see that it's red. Not that it's missing these and it needs them, it's that it had them and it no longer has access to them. But I see also it's got 2 families here as well. So this gives me a ton of information by just simply holding down tab. And I can see, okay, I've got a workshop here. So this shows me I have a workshop available to construct. But I can see there's no one here, no one here, no one here. So this gives me just so much information. I can see where my oxes are. All sorts of fun stuff by just holding down this tab button. Now, another note is about crop rotation. I have an entire video about this, and my good buddy Strat Gaming has a whole bunch of videos on this as well, so please do check his channel out, as he has tons of really good information to dive in on. But what you should take a look at when it comes to crop rotation is clicking your field and not selecting this button. If you select this button, I'm going to pause the game so it doesn't cause any tomfoolery. If I press this button, yes, sure, I can have these fields on an auto crop rotation, but in the beginning of the game, that's actually disadvantageous to you, because what happens is the game is going to follow this rigid system of doing your rotation. And as soon as September hits, or well, the beginning of autumn, it's going to harvest the entire field and try to plant again. And if it doesn't get to a certain point, you will lose your crop come winter. If the crop has grown to 100%, you're totally fine. But what you should be doing instead is just kind of keep this going as is. Do not put an actual automatic rotation on it. let it manually do things, meaning that I'm just going to kind of maybe keep this down over here. I can keep track of when this kind of gets closer to 100%. Or for the most part, you could just kind of ignore it. And then as soon as you get closer to November, I ideally like to start the process of harvesting everything right as we come into November. You'll harvest it all, winter will hit, and come March, you will manually select by just taking a look at what the fertility is like. I'm going to use these fields because there's nothing on them. Fertility is like, okay, well, my wheat's really high. I'm going to go ahead and let that happen. Or manually doing a fallow, all these things. In the beginning, this allows you to have a really good yield. So we're coming into April here. I've just gone ahead and planted the next bit of crop, but I still have 144 bread left over from the winter's harvest. So there's a lot of really great advantages you have to manually doing this. But once you do get to a point of the game having more fields, once I expand to these, I will actually keep them on an auto crop rotation, because you don't want to really manage all these little individual fields. By this point, you have such a huge amount of income of food that it's not going to hurt you. But in the beginning, the first year or two, maybe even 3, it can really damage your food income, which also then damages how many people can end up living in your village because you don't have enough food. Trading. It is probably the most reliable way to get tons of, well, it's the only way to really get tons of money in the game. But you probably haven't used this a whole ton, or maybe you've yet to jump into it, but it truly is a way to just unlock a lot of things for you. And what we're leveraging with our trade is this right here, trade logistics. Establishing a new trade route always costs a max of 25 regional wealth. Let me break this down here for you real quick. So we're going to go ahead and press the trade button, and I'm going to go ahead and let's look at commodities. So for instance, right now, I'm going to pause this so things don't happen in the background. Cloaks, shoes, ale, clothes, candles, all these things, I either can produce them or cannot, whatever it is. And you can see what I have in my surplus, what I would like to have as my desired surplus. So for example, tools here, I've got 25, my desired surplus is 0. I want to sell all 25 of my tools. And then I can see that the export price of the tool, selling them, is 6 silver or gold, whatever this is, 6 regional wealth, but buying it is 16. So this little guy right here, trade logistics, when you unlock that, it makes it so that you can actually establish trade routes for only 25 gold. And what happens is you no longer need to have anyone stationed here. A trader is going to come once a month, and that merchant is going to come and buy all available surplus down to the desired surplus that you've got. So right now, my tools are set to no trade. I'm going to set them to export. So when this guy comes, looks like he's on his way to me, or is he away from me? Yeah, he's on his way to me. So he will come and he will buy all 25 of my tools, meaning I'm going to get a ton of money. If you started the game and you're in the medium difficulty, you probably were given 10 tools. Sell them at a trader as soon as you can. It'll give you quite a good bump to your regional wealth. But this can also be done with your buttons that I can't find. Livestock as well. So this is how you would buy sheep. Currently right now, horses are a little buggy, so maybe don't play with them as much, but you can do this again with your crafting materials. Maybe you have a ton of hides because you have goat farms on a lot of your workshops, or a ton of hunting camps going. You have maybe a ton of linen left over from doing certain things. Establishing these trade routes is guaranteed monthly income. But furthermore, maybe you have a ton of one resource. Like I had at one point 180 stone. So I sold a desire surplus down to 80, and it gave me enough capital to buy a lot of these initial trade routes. Selling or trading in this game is really the key to money. And some of the big cash crops are both tools and roof tiles. Using your clay, getting those roof tiles after you've upgraded a lot of your Burgage plots and your church is crucial to having a strong income, so you can both expand your retinues and get stronger armies. Influence is another big portion of the game that kind of comes in more, and I don't even want to say the mid portion of the game, but after you've really kind of settled that year 1 survival struggle. And it's how your character, it's all the way up in the right corner here, it's how your character can press claims on territory and expand your own. Now, the best way to get your influence, or at least 2 big chunks of it, is first by building your manor. You can see this right here, grants 250 influence and raises the administration level by 1, but also by upgrading your normal wooden church to a small stone church. This is going to give you your level 2 faith requirement for your Burgage plots, but also it grants you another 250 influence. Why that's nice is it puts you halfway towards pushing claim on an unclaimed territory. Let me show you what that means. We're going to go ahead and zoom all the way out. So, oh man, this guy's really... We can claim influence over here by using this 1000 to claim something that is unclaimed. Conversely, I can claim a claimed spot for 2000. And how you're going to get influence after those first initial bursts is clicking on your manor, going to taxes, and you can see we've got a tithe tax, percentage of surplus food that is given to the church in return for influence. Mine right now is set to 5% because I don't really have a huge ton of surplus. I like to hang out around like 8 to 12 months, depending on how much population growth I'd like to do. But if you have a good surplus, putting this all the way up to 10 is going to be substantial because the amount of influence you're going to get per month, that's how this tithe works. Every month you're given a chunk of influence. If I fast forward this right now, we'll see how much I get. This just says 1300, but we'll see how much it is. But either way, every month I'm going to get that influence from this surplus of food. And the nice thing is you can just kind of have this going as soon as you build your manor. So by the time you actually have a military worth pushing into, you're going to have the influence to probably go and make those claims. What's going to happen is if you don't spend any time doing this, so we just moved into May, we went up by whatever. We went from 1,300 to 1,400, so I don't know what the exact amount was. But either way, if you don't work on this influence early, by the time you're ready to expand, you're going to hit a bottleneck and that you can't expand because you don't have the influence. So your village is up and running. You started to get a good income of a lot of different things, but now you're starting to run out of lots of timber and you need to expand where you're picking that timber from. You, of course, are going to go to your logging camp, you're going to go to advance, and you're going to choose a new work area. But what you can do instead is simply relocate this logging camp. You'd click this button, and then you can simply move this building, let's just say like right over here. And in a previous video, I had spoken that this destroys the supply. It actually does not do that anymore. That is no longer a thing. At one point, it did do that. So let's take, for example, this building, this logging camp. I'm going to relocate it over to these trees. Now, the reason I'm doing this is that, yeah, sure, I can keep it here and they can keep running from this point to this point, going and getting all those that lumber, or I can put them right in the heart of a bunch of trees and they can get the lumber easily back to the logging camp. Now, ox will go and take lumber from any location it is, even if it's a felled tree out in the field that hasn't been harvested and brought back to the logging camp yet. So having the logging camp central to the trees allows for all of your lumberjacks, your foresters, whatever they are, to bring those logs back to the camp easier and allowing for you to have a road that connects all this. I actually like to do this too, like have a road that kind of goes out to the forest I'm doing. So this allows for a lot of ease of access for that lumber, for the ox, for building, for everything. But furthermore too, this isn't just simply the logging camp. There are quite a few buildings that you can move around. Take the saw pit, for example. Now the saw pit will pull its resources from the logging camp. So I like to keep the saw pit next to the place that generates those resources. And the woodcutter's lodge, in another video I had spoken that this pulls its resources from the logging camp. It does not. They go and fell their own trees to make the firewood. But still, I would probably want it where the logging camp is because it's going to do the exact same thing. I want it to go and pick up wood in a local area. So some of these buildings will have the capability to be moved, like the hitching post over here, and take advantage of that. Not all of them can, though. You can see that some of these cannot. But it's mainly the things that can change over time, like the forager hut. These berries are exhausted. Maybe you blew out the trees or whatever the situation is, and the berries aren't there. If they're somewhere else, we're going to move this to wherever that is. Or the hunting camp. These wild animals, they've gone ahead and migrated. Well, we're going to move it now closer to the wild animals. Take advantage of moving your buildings because it doesn't cost you any resources to do it. Yes, they do have to go and build it again, but all the things that you spent into it as far as the resources go. So if I take a look at this, it's like 2, 4, 6 total timber to do that. It's all already allocated. They just need to go ahead and rebuild it. That's the only downside to this. But it definitely helps you out in conserving resources and getting your buildings to the places they need to maximize your resource growth. So your granary and your storehouse are two very important buildings for your entire village and civilization. They are where all the resources that you harvest and create are probably going to go, but it's probably not where they should all go. And I'm going to show you how this works. So for one, Assigning more people to these locations allows for more stalls to be set up. This can sometimes increase availability and so on and so forth. That's not really the point of this section. The point of this section is talking about the advanced tab. Now, you can build multiple granaries and storehouses across your village to try to help maximize, or at least create a more efficient route for things to work. Now, I brought this up in quite a few of my videos in the past, but let me show you some examples here. Let's go ahead and I'm going to move the granary down here for now. So here is my mining pit followed by my bloomery. Now the mining pit creates iron ore, then the bloomery takes that iron ore and creates iron slabs. And it uses obviously firewood for fuel. Now the storehouse can hold iron ore. And yeah, I could do that if I want, but here's what would then happen. The population that has created the mining pit will store all of its stuff here in the mining pit, and then the storehouse will come take a handcart, grab it from the mining pit, and bring it back to the storehouse. Then the person from the bloomery will walk with their hands, not a handcart. The difference between a hands and handcart is the 10 resources on a handcart, 1 resource in your hand. So they'll come and take that iron ore from the storehouse and bring it back to the bloomery. Cut down all that bullshit and just have it so that there's no storehouse storage of the iron ore. They'll just go from this point to go ahead and refine that ore into the slabs. And then that slab is picked up and put into the storehouse. This enables you to try to maximize all the time spent. And people in the storehouse aren't really working over themselves. Conversely, too, you could really kind of stack this up a little bit better than I did in this example. Where's my blacksmith? My blacksmith is going to go pull iron slabs. And if I had had this kind of close, or maybe even the storehouse that specifically stores the iron slabs, if I had made a second one right here, then the blacksmith that needs to go grab those doesn't need to go as far. So use the storehouse and granary in a way that makes sense for your economy in the way that you have set it up, right? It's all going to be dependent upon where you've created your buildings. One last real quick example would be the granary here. It is not storing wheat, it is not storing grain, and it is not storing flour. Because once we harvest the wheat, it gets threshed into grain at the farmhouse, and then the windmill comes and picks the grain up, and then the communal oven will go and pick up the flour that is created at the windmill from the grain and make the bread. And then the granary will go and grab the bread. This just cuts down on so much movement. Now, pops need to bring the things around, all those little products to these points, but as soon as they get to the storehouse and the granary, they can quickly be transported to the marketplace right here. They have to manually do this. But once they're at the marketplace, they are immediately transported out to your Burgage slots. So let's now jump into a conversation about marketplace. So like I said, with the marketplace, your Burgage plots are immediately covered. It's assumed if the availability is there, they are immediately hit. Now, I have 30 living spaces, not to be confused with the hit store living spaces. And what this means is that I need to provide 30 of a specific resource that is needed for whatever level of the plot that the Burgage plots are. And you can see here that leather, linen, yarn. Okay, well, I need that for my level 1 locations, and we've got 22. We need to have more. So my total number of Burgage plots is basically what this percentage is based off of. It's not saying that like, hey, you only have 58% clothing or whatever. It's telling you the percentage of your plots that are covered with clothing is 58%. And that's represented here by the colors or food variety here. 80% of my Burgage plots are covered with their food variety. 100% are covered with firewood. Now, what's unique with firewood is firewood and charcoal. Charcoal is the only item in the game that will double dip. Again, Strat Gaming has an amazing video on this. It's 8 minutes long. Please go check it out. It's how to really kind of monopolize your markets. But if they don't have firewood, they can use charcoal. Versus clothing, it's one or the other type of thing. So what you should know, though, is, again, anything that hits this marketplace is immediately transported. But it's transported in order of distance. So this Burgage plot, you can tell it's got everything knocked off that it can be knocked off. I don't have any level 2 clothes. We'll get into this in a little second. And I don't have the tavern supply, but it's knocked out. I do have plenty of fuel, food variety, and food clothing, but this one all the way in the back here, you can see it. None of it is met. In fact, some of it is just not even, it was fulfilled and now it's not. So that distance to the market does matter. So you can make your entire community around the marketplace if you'd like. You can build another marketplace if you'd like. Those things can really help you out. But understanding how these percentages are actually coverage of your Burgage plots can really change the way that you view your marketplace and help you kind of crack the code of how this all works. Now, we've talked about this. Let me talk more about how that kind of plays into those plots themselves. So we have three little menus here, right? We have a level 2 Burgage plot, a level 1 Burgage plot. This one is further away, and this level 2 one's like right around here, and we have our marketplace. So what I want you to take a look at is these little diamonds. These diamonds give you context tips as to what you need to satisfy that diamond's requirement. It's not, okay, I need 3 types of food or 2 types of clothing. Because if I take a look at this up here, or wherever the hell it is, the thing that shows me if I got, no, here, there. This shows I've got leather and I've got linen. That's 2 types of clothing. Why isn't this checked off? Because this is showing me tier 1 clothing, which is linen, leather, and yarn. They go and make the clothing themselves. Or byproduct or whatever the result of those things are is the tier 2 version. It shows you marketplace, shoes, clothes, and cloaks. If I hover over this, it shows me right there. 1, 1, 1, and 1. That satisfies the tier 1 diamond requirement for a Burgage plot level 1. Now the level 2, the little 2 diamond shows me that is the requirement for a Burgage plot level 2. So I cannot progress to a level 3 Burgage plot until I get those little diamond, those little 2 clothes, shoes, and cloaks satisfied. So you're not looking at this going, well, what the hell, man? I've got leather, linen, and yarn, and I'm not checking off that second diamond. Hover over the diamond, it's going to tell you exactly what it wants. Food's the only one that's just like, yeah, just have multiple types of it, dude. So I don't care. And fuel is pretty agnostic as well. But church, it'll say, hey, I need a wooden church. Now I need a stone church. I got this tavern. Cool. And when you upgrade to a level 3, your requirements are going to change again. So take a look at the marketplace. It gives you a lot of information just by hovering over this, but conversely, hover over these little diamonds to find out exactly what you need to help upgrade your Burgage plots. Now, on the note of Burgage plots, we have the ability to specialize them, right? And you can make a Burgage plot. It's plot, right? You keep bouncing back and forth between plot and slot like this. And you go, oh, okay, cool. This is going to make 2 plots, 2 plots and 3 plots and 1 workshop. Well, you know what? You can press this button. Okay, now I'm going to get, which is interesting here. This is going to give me 3 living spaces. This actually gives me 4 living spaces because I'm making 2 duplexes and I've got 1 workshop. I can make it even less, and that's done that. Just using this add and reduce plot button. But you can also press this to pivot that and change the angle that the front of the plots are facing. This allows you to kind of finagle things. But you've got these little things right here. This is the connotation that telling you that, hey, this is going to make a workshop. Now, workshops, it doesn't matter what the size of the workshop is unless you are making a vegetable garden or, well, I'll just choose one of these. A vegetable garden or an orchard. Those are the only ones that the size of it matters. So if you take a look at these guys, I've created these Burgage plots to have workshops, and I can put anything else on them and it will still help me specialize this Burgage plot and save me enough room to make a whole second fleet of houses right behind them. You can see here, we're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plots out of this little stretch of land versus here, we only got 4. So we doubled what we had, and we don't have to kind of say, okay, I'm going to focus these on vegetable gardens. Nah, I've got that over here. Specializing them is a big portion of this game because by specializing these Burgage plots, you can get a lot of stuff done, I guess you could say. Where is my baker? My baker's dozen around here. I think this was the one I was going to do. So one of these is a baker, I swear. Or maybe I haven't made it yet. But either way, one of these can be a baker. And what you want to do is anything that's creating something. So for instance, this bakery extension, if I produce this here, I'd like to do that possibly at a duplex, meaning one that's got 2 families on it, because this will help increase the output. Maybe something that is a little bit more minor, like these gardens or these coops or sheds. The actual duplex doesn't matter. Specializing them can be made a little bit better and easier. Like if you take this tailor's workshop, for example, I've got 2 houses here, 2 families. So that means I've got 2 families worth of tailors. I basically get 2 for the price of 1. It helps to specialize things and make it better. Now, another big thing too with this plot is the ability, here's my Fletcher's workshop. The Fletcher is going to go ahead and make me tons of war bows. But I really don't need any right now because I can't really I don't have enough population to man them outside of outright selling them. So if you come to a point where, you know what, I don't need the actual production of this artisan anymore, you go ahead and press this button and they'll stop producing for you so you can either hoard the resource or wait until you actually need it. Now, one last thing I do want to hit on before we close our video out is about warfare. And I'm not going to lie to you, I am not the most versed individual in warfare. I've spent so much of my time just going through and restarting and getting much into the civics of this. So there are plenty of other content creators out there that have covered the warfare portion of this. Please go and check them out. But whenever you have a unit here, like for instance, this unit of Spear Militia had 20 soldiers. When they die, they lose their equipment. There's no scrounging it off the battlefield or anything like that. So just keep that in mind. If you are going to get into a large war, have the means to create either a surplus or an additional bit of it should you lose anyone. Also, your retinue here, can be expanded. When you create your manor, it starts at 5. I've gone ahead and pressed every button improperly. My manor over here. I've gone ahead and actually added this tower, the garrison tower, which you can see increases max retinue size by 12, limited by 1 per region. Your retinue is hugely strong because they are not militia. They've got their own equipment. You don't have to worry about it. And they're actually relatively cheap once you start establishing good trade. So you go ahead and click retinue customization, and you'll see right there, recruit men-at-arms. So just for 50 more gold, I can get another very strong character. And if you kind of think about this, if it starts at 5, we're only really needing to add another 19 to this. And what is that? That's 19 times 50. So 950 gold, which feels like a lot. But if you're working towards proper trade in the beginning and doing a lot of these other tips we talked about, you should have enough money to get all these men-at-arms filled out by the time you want to go start doing any big, heavy invasions. So hopefully this helps you out in expanding your territory. And at that, it brings our video here to a close. So hopefully this helped you out in learning a little bit more about Manor Lords. Maybe you knew most of this stuff or didn't understand one thing. And there are certain things in this video that I've talked about that I had wrong before because either a patch changed things when I came from, content creator early access to real early access. But whatever it is, this game is very alive and dynamic, and there's patches and stuff like that that are going to change a lot of this stuff. And in maybe 3 months, all of what I've talked about is completely unrecognizable. That's okay. It is early access. But if you have any other really cool tips that have really helped you kind of understand certain mechanics in this game, please let it be known in the comment section below. Some people are really clicking and firing off the bat with this game and just running wild with it. Some people are getting frustrated and they're dying in their first year, maybe 2. Have fun with it. Enjoy it as much as you can. There is one thing I will tell you. If you start the game at the medium difficulty and you get that dialog box that pops up and says, hey, there's raiders incoming. If you say, we'll watch them and not that you're ready, it will delay the game's combat mechanics. So if you want to spend more time learning the game, just say, hey, we'll keep an eye on them. And you can not have to worry about brigands attacking and lighting your houses on fire. So go ahead, share what you know below. Let as much information out to the people as possible. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.